Pod of Thunder!
Welcome to Pod of Thunder, the recognized symbol of excellence in rock and roll podcasting, brought to you by Blue Microphones, the greatest microphones money can buy. Oh, they look good and they sound even better, don't they? Ooh! Thank you to Douglas Levy for the intro today. Guess who's here? You know me.
Here's my buddy Andy.
That's right. It's your buddy Andy, America's little brother. And as always, I am joined by the man, everyone's favorite, the breakout star of the podcast medium. Ladies and gentlemen,
you better say my name and say it right, motherfucker.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I will make sure to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Chris L. There he is. Chris, what's happening? You're
Not
here.
much. What's popping?
Oh, man, just living life. Got that summer diet started.
Summer diet.
Couple weeks in, getting ready to pop my shirt off in public.
Well, there's an issue there that we've been talking about. We couldn't... I was going to... considered bringing it up last week on the episode.
Okay.
Even though we had a guest on, but it never came up. But I think it's time to publicly discuss your dissatisfaction with the Norelco body hair trimmer you purchased a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you're right.
You need to vent about this. It's keeping it inside is not going to do you any good.
No, it's not.
So what's the problem?
Well, as you hear, it doesn't sound like it's very powerful.
Is that the actual trimmer?
Yes.
Okay.
So, all right. We'll just talk about all this stuff.
Because, I mean, if you're going to be popping your shirt off in the summer, you have to be properly groomed.
Let me talk about the genesis of this, and then we'll get to the body grooming.
I thought you were going to say the genitals of this, which we'll get to that eventually.
We'll get to that,
Let's face it. You're not buying a body hair trimmer to not address the genital area.
No, I mean, you might address other areas.
Yeah, why not?
The genital area is definitely the headliner of that show.
It's the primary reason why you're buying this equipment.
All right, so here's what happened. This is going to sound very weird, but it'll make sense in a minute.
Nothing weird about it.
Give me a second. So, my wife and I, we have a 2-year-old daughter, right? And a couple weeks ago, we decided we were going to sign her up for a swimming class. And in this swimming class, because she's 2 years old, a parent has to be in the water with the kid.
Okay.
It made me think, you know what? I could lose a couple. I'm starting to, my shirts are starting to get a little tight. I'm getting a little flabby.
Happens.
I'm going to try to, and that, even though I don't actually care, I'm not trying to get in shape to be the hot dad at the swimming thing or whatever. It just gave me a little bit of motivation if I'm going to have to be in a pool with no shirt for 8 weeks. Like, maybe I'll try to drop a couple for this.
Literally before I came over here, my wife was watching an episode of My 600-Pound Life. So anything you can do to keep things from toppling too far in the wrong direction.
Right.
There's no downside to addressing it ahead of time.
Regardless
of time.
Yeah, and regardless of the reason.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
So, right. So I was, I'm like, I'm going to change my diet a little bit, try to lose a couple pounds. And then it just made me think, I'm not as hairy a guy as Nick is.
No, but men get hairier as they get older.
Right. Yeah. So I've got a tuft on the front, long armpit hair, what have you.
Yeah.
Pasty, fishy white body, as they say.
And you're going to start to get hairs in the ear and nose area.
Yep. And then I've got like the below the belly button hair and all that stuff. So I was like, you know what? I used to have a body groomer that was battery powered. It died, so I've used plug-in clippers with great success, but my laziness has prevented me from using it as often as I should.
Plus, they're not really ideal for that.
No.
It's more for the head.
Right. Built for the head.
It's hard to get precision, sort of trimming. It's more to buzz off head on the hair.
Right. So I decided to pop for a pair of body grooming shears, whatever they're called. Electric, battery-powered.
Well, it's not a scissor.
No. Shear was the wrong word, but...
Well, you said pair, too. You get 2 trimmers, did you?
No.
One for each armpit.
You got to use both hands at the same time. Goes faster that way. So anyway, a little battery-powered thing with a motor, like a little clipper thing. So I was like, I'm going to get one on Amazon. See what, look at something with some good reviews, but I'm not going to break the bank on this, obviously.
Right, and Amazon's just so convenient.
Yeah.
Something that you don't feel... First of all, you're not going to be able to test it out anyway,
no matter where you get it.
You're not going to go to Target and be like, can I trim my balls with this in the bathroom? Just test it out.
Yeah.
Anything of that nature, like that you don't have to try on to feel good about it. Stuff that that you're going to get some use out of it. It's probably going to work for you. Yeah. It's going to be on your doorstep tomorrow. You just order it.
Right. And the whole point of the review system is that it's a public thing, and when there's more than a handful of reviews, you feel like you could somewhat trust it, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So this thing had 900 reviews, and it had 4 out of 5 stars. Reasonably priced at $20, because I didn't want to spend a lot, like I said, because you could buy something for like $60.
Right.
But I'm not doing that.
Well,
I might be. But anyway, so I get this thing for $20, this little Norelco thing. You can go back and forth with it. So I'm like, ooh, that's a nice feature. It cuts in both directions.
That is a nice feature.
Right?
I don't have that on mine.
I've never seen it before, so I thought that's pretty cool. I'll go for that. It has 2 convenient lengths, 1/8 of an inch or 1/64 of an inch, your choice.
Start with the 1/8, see how that is.
And on the box it said 1/8 of an inch attachment for longer looks.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. So anyway.
Hey, whatever.
I was excited to use this thing. Took it out for a spin. And it's basically a vibrating body hair comb.
So the main issue, just no power. Is
no
that
power.
the issue?
You rub, armpits, right? We'll start there. Rubbing it over your armpit, you have to do the same spot like 5 times to get it to cut. Like it'll cut a couple hairs at a time. That's not acceptable.
No, it's not.
That's horseshit. How does that 4 out of 5 stars? And then when you get to other areas that might have naturally thicker hair.
Not much, but
maybe just my body.
Yeah, well,
but for some reason
it is thicker, but it's similar texture to the armpit hair.
My body's got sort of like a gradient transition as it goes down. The hair just gets thicker.
Like different grits of sandpaper as you head down.
Exactly. So down in that area, it just was like couldn't handle it.
That's ridiculous.
It almost pulled hair out.
Those have got to be shill reviews, fake reviews. You know that's going on.
So that's my next question. How does that happen? How do you get 900 reviews and average 4 out of 5 stars?
Norelco is bombarding Amazon with fake reviews. The bots we talked about that Blabbermouth probably uses for voice recognition. Company like Norelco probably doing the same thing.
People have figured this thing out, huh? You can't trust anything anymore.
You can't trust anything anymore.
So I'm looking at it right now. It's the I'm going to tell you exactly what it is so you don't buy it, listeners. It is the Philips Norelco Body Groom Series 1100 shower-proof body hair trimmer and groomer for men.
Yeah, lousy piece of equipment.
It is. 922 reviews, 4 out of 5 stars. Hunk of garbage. So I think I'm going to attempt to send it back. You know what? Let's do it right now. How do we do this? Return item.
Well, don't waste the listeners' time.
Well,
Who knows how long this process is going to take?
I just wanted to give you the couple of options quickly. We won't actually do it, but we have inaccurate website description, item defective or doesn't work, or didn't approve of purchase.
It's number 3, obviously.
I disapprove of this hunk of shit, and I'm sending it back tomorrow.
Well, but what we've discussed is, will they take back a piece of equipment that you've clearly run over your balls at some point?
Yeah.
I mean, what do they do? Just take it back, refund your money, and pitch it in the trash?
Probably.
They can't resell it.
They can't resell it. It probably just goes right in the trash.
It has to.
It's probably worth $1. And that's why it's $20 to take in consideration.
Either that or it goes to like some remote country in Africa along with all the Boston Bruins Stanley Cup champion gear that's headed over there as we speak. Golden State Warriors NBA champs 2019.
Yeah, if you see a guy in a Golden State Warriors 2019 championship shirt with half-shaved pubes,
Yeah.
you know what happened.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. If that thing didn't work on you, it ain't working in Africa either. But it's headed there.
That's headed there. Yeah, it is. You know what I say about that thing? That thing is a...
Total fucking dewclaw.
There you go. Just a,
It really is.
It's a useless product.
Do you know what the former mayor of Chicago would say to the individual who designed that piece of shit?
How dare him? How dare him?
Exactly. How do you go to market with such an anemic
There's actually a
piece of gear?
There's actually a statement from the CEO of Philips Norelco. Let's tune in now.
You guys deserved way better than this jerk-off did tonight, and I'm sorry.
There you go.
Absolutely. That engineer
Yes.
hopefully has been fired.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give any free advertising on this show other than for Blue Microphones, which wasn't free. It was in exchange for something. It's a mutually beneficial agreement. But I told Andy about the company that advertises on the Sports Talk Radio network here in Chicago.
Right.
You're going to spend about $50 for one of those, but I think you can feel confident that you're going to get what you paid for. I might pop for one of those soon. I've been using a Norelco beard trimmer on my balls. And I mean, it does the job, but I think I want a specialized unit.
Yeah. You want the correct instrument designed for what it's designed for.
I do. And the stuff we're talking about, the selling point for me and this, for you on the other thing, was the multi-directional capability.
I don't need that, but I like it.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
You know, save you time.
Yeah. This
one claims to virtually eliminate all nicks and cuts. The beard trimmer, not ideal for that.
On an especially hot day, when you've got saltwater taffy balls.
Well, any day. It's, it's not ideal. Let's put it that way. I'm ready for an upgrade. So,
all right. Well, we'll see what happens. To be continued next week. We'll see. But now it's time to get to this week's song. A random selection from the listener submission
no
list.
one on the buddy bench this week.
Oh, that's right. Of course.
Taking a break.
That's why we hit you with an onslaught of ball talk.
Yeah, nobody else would have listened to that, sat through that.
You would have heard a dial tone 1 minute into that story.
It's one of the reasons why I didn't break it out last week.
Same
here.
here.
That might have been an interesting discussion, but here we are.
Same here.
Talking amongst ourselves, but people seem to like both versions of the show at this point. When we have a guest, people seem to like that.
Mm-hmm.
When it's just the two of us doing a rando, people are enjoying that as well. So this time will be Andy's choice.
Ooh, all right. Let me open the list here.
And to reiterate, since this isn't the Kiss catalog and our intention was to do every song in the Kiss catalog, we will pick a random... Well, Andy will select a random number with the help of Google.
Yep.
Go to the list. If the song is not to his liking, he will, in the words of the late, great rapper who left us this week, Bushwick Bill, you will do what?
We will.
Move along to the next trick.
Yeah, we'll move along to the next trick, which people got a little bent out of shape about that the last time you
I skipped 2.
made the selection. I just want to reinforce the fact that the song is not being discarded from the list on the off chance it comes up when I pick it and I would like to do it.
Right. And it wasn't necessarily that it was something terrible. I think I was just thinking what the previous 1 or 2 episodes were like and didn't want something that felt too similar. So that's kind of what went into my decision making.
Exactly. So don't get all torqued about it. It's going to be okay.
It's like being a DJ, right? You have to play the right song next, right?
You would think.
You can't go
There's
too far in the wrong
a lot of
direction.
shitty DJs out there.
That's true. All right. Well, we've got our number. Bless you. Bless your heart. Our number is 173. So let's take a look and see if I'm satisfied.
If you're getting the sensation.
I'm getting some sensation.
You getting a sensation from this?
Yes, I am. I think we're good.
That's what we want.
We're good. All right. Let's roll it.
Let's rip.
Mr. Jericho, hit it.
All right, Hammer. This one's called
Snowblind,
off of
Volume 4,
by the band
Black Sabbath. That works. We haven't gotten into Black Sabbath.
Now we haven't done any Sabbath, right? We did Ozzy.
Correct. We did Perry Mason.
Right.
Nick's Choice 1 week.
Which was promptly whacked from our new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We want to talk about bots being at work.
Yes.
It was like instantly removed, right?
Yeah. One of the few.
That and AC/DC.
Those 2 were the ones, I think the only 2 that are gone.
Yeah. Those 2 camps are on top of what goes on. Makes you wonder why they don't want to get rid of the actual episode, but not that I'm encouraging them to go that route.
You mean from iTunes?
Yeah, or anything.
Yeah, maybe they're just not
that sophisticated.
Maybe Apple won't give them that access. I don't know how that works.
It's possible.
I don't know. So, all right. Black Sabbath, huh? Oh, we didn't talk about who submitted this. This came from Spencer Wetmore.
Wetmore would be a good name for a body hair trimmer, I would think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anybody should topple Norelco at this point. The Wetmore ball hair trimmer would be a good piece of equipment. I'd buy that.
Or Spencer Wetmore could be the guy who advertises it, like the fictional character. He could be like the cartoon version of the body hair trimmer.
Or he could be like, who is the guy? Cy Sperling, the hair club for men guy.
Yeah.
I'm Spencer Wetmore.
Why does everyone remember Cy Sperling?
I don't know.
It's funny because I don't think that was any more popular than other TV advertising infomercial stuff, but for some reason, everybody remembers Cy Sperling. Was it a timing thing? Was that new at the time?
I'm actually impressed with myself for remembering that.
He was on a WrestleMania once.
Oh,
he was like a weird joke celebrity to the point where he was getting booked on talk shows and stuff.
Yeah, and that turned out to be a winning formula. The Wendy's guy, the Men's Warehouse guy.
Yeah, that's true.
There's some science behind that in the advertising realm in terms of the perceived benefit of doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Billy Mays.
Anyway, back to the song here. So I was, well, yeah. The episode that ended Nick, essentially, on this show, the LL Cool J episode.
Yeah.
I was close to picking a Black Sabbath song, but I was going to pick a cover version of that song, and I didn't do it. This is not it, but I was close to doing it. So that, well, it would have been the first Black Sabbath song we've covered here, but not the first Black Sabbath song by the actual band.
Yeah.
So
I guess that could still be in the hopper. Whether it's in there or not, it could be in your personal.
I don't know. I didn't check to see if that particular song is on the listener submission list. I will say that the version I was going to pick, I won't say the song, and I think they do a version of this song too, is by believe the name, it's a little confusing how they title their albums, but I'm pretty sure the name of the band is called Brownout.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
And they've got 2 albums of Brown Sabbath, Latin infused Black Sabbath covers.
Okay.
But it's not like as cheesy as you might think it sounds like by the description. It's very close to, or closer to, the sound of early Santana.
Okay.
But with horns.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like mariachi style or anything like kind of cheesy. It's actually really friggin' good. If you're interested, seek those out. They're excellent. And pretty sure they do a version of this one. So
not heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
yeah, it's worth a listen. It's really good stuff. But this one is been a staple of the live set probably since it came out, which was, what, 1972?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And we just kind of came on each other's radar, but there's a Black Sabbath podcast out there, Sabbath Bloody Podcast.
I have not heard of that. Okay.
And been bantering back and forth with them, and also the Deep Purple podcast that we came on each other's radar in the wake of the Getting Tighter episode.
Yes.
And gave me an opportunity to tweet out my assessment of the first 8 Black Sabbath albums. The first 3 albums would be the Weed albums. The next 3 albums would be the Coke albums. And the last 2, before Ozzy was kicked out and they brought in Dio, albums 7 and 8 would be the Consequences of Coke albums, in my estimation.
Okay, so this would be the first Coke album.
This would be the first Coke album. We were talking a little bit about liner notes earlier on about the Roger Williams album we were spinning before the recording started.
Yeah.
Not so much liner notes, but just sort of like
Packaging.
extended thank yous in the notes to this album. They acknowledge cocaine as being a
really
inspiration for this album.
So they're not.
And
They weren't hiding it.
No, and this everybody who's heard this, which is probably everybody listening right now, knows that this is. On the previous album, Master of Reality, you had Sweet Leaf, which was their homage to marijuana. This is their homage to Coke. I was about to say Coca-Cola, but cocaine, yayo, nose whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Just expressing their love for the drug in song, basically.
Yeah. Was that a universal thing used by the whole band? To our knowledge?
God, yes. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read it personally, but I think they have an autobiography out, or a biography or whatever. That easily ranks up there with Motley Crue and Aerosmith in terms of how are these guys still alive.
It's pretty shocking, isn't it?
I mean, the original 4 are still alive. 40 some years after this, coming up on 50 years after this.
Yeah, 48 years coming up.
You
on
wonder
50.
how they even survived into 1973 with the way they were conducting themselves back in the day. But here they are, still alive.
Guys in their 70s.
Yeah.
The Ramones barely made it to 50, all dead.
All gone. It's pretty amazing, especially when you consider how hard these guys went at it. But this is, I would say this is an album that is consistently my second favorite of the first 8.
Okay. What's your number 1?
Usually it's Sabotage.
Okay.
That was the 6th album. But in the past, for a long time, it was Master of Reality. And then they kind of switch places, but Volume 4 is usually always in the second slot for me.
So 4, 5, 6 are your favorite 3 of...
Well, it would be 3, 4,
or 3, 4, 6.
6.
3, 4, 6. Okay, gotcha.
What about you? What's your take here? Are you familiar with the song or the album?
I'm familiar with the song. I'm not familiar with any whole Black Sabbath album. People are probably pissed off turning their podcasts off. We had We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll.
Oh, yeah.
The greatest hits thing.
That's a great compilation. Although I will say that they made some questionable song choices, particularly what they didn't pick from Sabotage compared to what they did. Yeah. Everything else was on point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they picked, Laguna Sunrise, and...
it's on this album.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was on Sabotage.
It's track 8 of 10 on this album.
Did they? So they might have just flat out ignored Sabotage on that album. Maybe they put that out after Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I don't know. But, well, yeah. I mean, there's some other songs off this that would have been a better pick for the greatest hits, I think. Oh, it's Am I Going Insane, parentheses, Radio, was the song they picked from Sabotage, which is probably the weakest track on there, in my opinion.
What's the motivation for that? Who knows?
Hard to say, but yeah, I had that collection.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty damn solid.
Yeah,
from an introduction to the band, and there are a few bands that I really only have had the greatest hits collections. I've never gotten into their studio albums.
Yeah.
Like Foo Fighters would be one. Mm-hmm. STP is another one.
Oh, really?
And Pantera is probably the third one that I can think of.
Okay.
I've since owned a couple of STP studio albums, Purple and Number 4, right?
Yeah.
But nothing from Foo Fighters or Pantera, just the greatest hits.
Interesting. Okay.
So I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So.
Nick is, I don't know if he still is. I assume he is based on his love of Perry Mason. But Nick was the big Ozzy guy when we were kids. Without, I would say Kiss and Ozzy, without him being in the room to defend himself, were constants with him. And then also Fraley's Comet. And then probably later STP. But it was, I don't hate Ozzy or anything, but Ozzy and Black Sabbath were never really my thing. It was more of a Nick thing. So I heard all this stuff, but never really went out of my way to listen to it. And also, in my mind, I feel like Black Sabbath is a little bit too hippie for me. But maybe that's the first couple albums, but it's just not my style.
Yeah, those would be the Weed albums.
Yeah, okay.
This one is kind of the transition from the hippie to the, there's really no other way to say it, the train wreck that occurred. But I think you would probably like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath best, based on your taste. It's a very eclectic, weird album. you're familiar with the title track
Yeah.
from We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, which is a heavier tune, but there's a lot of other interesting stuff on there. My guess is that would be your favorite of the first
Okay.
8. Then again, given your musical taste, you might actually even like albums 7 and 8, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, which is just a band just spinning apart.
I like the song Never Say Die.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the album.
It's a mixed bag would be the polite way to put it. I've since kind of warmed up to those two, but on first listen, they were just such a major drop off after Sabotage that I don't know, it was a bit off-putting, but I've since come to appreciate them.
So Snowblind is track 6 of 10. One of the singles, I guess you'd say. I don't know if it was actually a single, but it's starred on Apple Music, which means it's, I don't know.
Well, it's easily the best known song off
Right.
this album. Like I said, it's probably been in the live set 99% of the time since this album came out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was in the live set for the reunion with Bill Ward back in the 90s. The End tour was in the set. Never not getting played as far as I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they had it in the set with Dio. It wasn't one of those Ozzy songs that they did when they needed to fill out the set. But ever since this came out with Ozzy as the front man, this would probably have been in the set. So,
All right. Well, 5 minutes and 26 seconds. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's do it.
All right, so before the vocals kick in, really kind of a smashes you in the face intro, and then they fall into that groove, which is really great. To me, this album far and away is Bill Ward's finest moment. The drumming on this album from the start to finish, absolutely incredible. And this is definitely an example of that. He is killing it on the entire album with of course the exceptions of Changes. There's no drums on it, and FX, which is basically just weird sound effects from the studio that they turned into a quote-unquote song to fill out the record. But incredible drumming, especially on the opening cut. Amazing stuff. Supernaut, crazy drumming. If you're a drumming fan and you're not familiar with this album, become familiar with it. You'll be glad you did.
What you get and what you see, things that don't come easily. Feeling happy in my pain, ice needles within my brain.
Now you heard the whisper of the word cocaine.
I did.
there.
I did catch
Have
that.
you heard that every time you've listened to it, or
I don't know about every time. Probably not when I was a kid and listening to this, but caught it eventually. But yeah.
Well, since then, obviously, when they do it in concert, he shouts,
Screams
it,
it, right? Yeah.
And
It's not a secret anymore.
no, and probably given the fact, certainly back in the day, that when he was performing this song, he was whacked out on cocaine. There was no holding back. But that whole the line leading into it, icicles within my brain, is a pretty spot on description of what it's like to do that drug. Nice lyrical description from Ozzy. Actually, Geezer Butler was the main lyricist, so he's probably responsible for that lyric. Underrated lyricist.
He wrote the majority of the lyrics, right? For
He
Black
certainly
Sabbath,
did
yeah.
in the earliest albums. I'm thinking maybe Ozzy contributed more as they went along, but Geezer Butler was definitely the lyric guy on the first three for sure.
Okay.
And strangely enough, and you wouldn't think of it because, I don't know, cocaine as a drug is definitely not something that really contributes positively to anything if you think about it, but Ozzy's vocals on these three albums, Volume 4, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, best of his entire career.
Really? You think so?
I think so, in terms of just like sheer the power of it, the strength of his voice, being on pitch most of the time. These three albums were his prime. I mean, he definitely got close to it when he in the early days, and actually somewhat throughout the solo career. But I don't think he ever topped these three.
It's weird to listen to this and know how successful this recording is, but also thinking like if a band put out something that sounded like this now, not the content, but the recording quality, you would think of it as like a demo. Just be, it's not super polished. It sounds like a band in a room, which is cool. Yeah. It's kind of refreshing, actually. But you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't expect, since we talked about them earlier, the Foo Fighters or someone to just put this out, this quality.
No, and you certainly, Black Sabbath obviously has become synonymous with metal.
Yeah.
And thought to be the pioneers of metal. You don't listen to this and it's not what metal music has turned into.
Not at all.
And he also, your assessment of them being kind of a hippie band is pretty accurate, which is another anomaly. It's like they were basically a hippie band, just had a darker take on it.
Yeah.
And that approach became the template for heavy metal music.
Right.
Very, very strange how that turned out. It's mainly because of the lyrical content, I think, and then they eventually got heavier as their career went on. But, like I said, this is kind of the bridge between the stoner sound of them and the whacked out, coked out approach. Is definitely straddling that fence here. Now, you're not getting as much of a hippie vibe from this. You're just talking about the sonic quality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was also back in the day when bands were putting out an album every year, touring, going back, putting out another album, doing it again every year.
Yeah.
There wasn't really the time to overproduce things or spit shine and polish stuff up. And
but it's funny that so much music from that time where bands were putting out albums every year in the 70s is what's considered classic to this day. For the most part, people aren't like, oh, that stuff sucks because they didn't spend enough time producing it. No one thinks like that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking this. I'm just saying it sounds different than what you're used to hearing from something, I don't know, from the 90s forward to now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not mastered the same way.
No, and we talked about, like, 3-4 years later, the Boston album came out, which kind of that was to me the turning point in terms of like incredible, pristine production. They were also a band that the follow-up, I don't know, maybe came out a year or two later. Then they didn't put out another album for 10 years.
What the hell happened?
Because there was record company stuff, and also the fact that they were friggin' perfectionists, and just they would never have put out an album that sounded like this. I don't even think as a band they were capable of this necessarily in the studio in terms of getting into a room, playing and having it come out of this quality. They were not that type of band, but I would point to that album as being the real turning point in terms of what bands started to choose or prioritize from a production standpoint. It was less about capturing that moment and more about putting out the most pristine, incredibly produced stuff you could. Yeah.
And I'm not knocking either either approach. They're both good.
Both classic approaches to it.
Yeah, just pointing it out.
Yeah, and it's totally accurate. And, that's one of the charms of early Black Sabbath is you got that vibe of them just creating something together in a room. Mm-hmm. And it's since become, praised and regarded as being super heavy in the template for metal, and it was and is. When you listen back to it, it's not really that super heavy. I mean, it's aggressive and powerful, but it's not what you think heavy metal is when you listen back to it. It's pretty incredible how the genre has evolved. Mm-hmm. All right, so basically the arrangement so far has been the two distinct sections there. They're about to go into a third different section. That's one of the things that if you've ever seen the classic albums episode for Paranoid album, Henry Rollins is a contributor to that with some interview segments. And one of the things he praises about Sabbath is how they're able to switch gears on a dime, from a tempo standpoint or a dynamic standpoint. And one of the ways that one of the best things about their songwriting is in arranging is that they would take these distinct sections and blend them together, and somehow they seamlessly moved from one to the next. It wasn't like it was never a jarring transition or one that sounded like they just slapped it in there. It always made sense, it seemed like. Certainly does in this song, and they're about to fall into another one of those, little more down-tempo section. I would say on this album is when Ozzy's vocal style really came into his own. When you listen to him singing in this section, you can definitely hear how close it is to how he sounded when he took over on his solo stuff. Like, whereas the first 3 albums, it's a different style, it's a different range, but here he's in that same wheelhouse, I think. And you listen to him singing here, and you could hear him, you know, that's the voice you're used to hearing on the Blizzard of Oz albums and everything that came after it.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
This is really where he started to find his voice, you know. You want to talk about an album that, quote-unquote, sounded like a demo, you know, listen to the debut album all the way through. I mean, the vocals are pitchy all over the place, and they basically recorded that in a day or two. Just
Right.
went in the studio and did the live set. But, you know, the results are what they are. It's a legendary release.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much established the template for heavy metal, the title track especially.
Mm-hmm.
So
A lot of references to ice, snow,
right.
blizzard, freeze, icicles, winter's ice,
Fascinated with cocaine.
Cold.
They are.
snowflakes glisten. So
It's like this. Think about it. This drug is so great. I'm just going to write an anthem to it, pledge my love for it, which they did again on the previous album, Sweet Leaf.
So why not just keep it rolling?
I mean, Sweet Leaf, he literally shouts out, "I love you" to marijuana.
Right.
Then they landed in California to record this album, and some lackey probably showed up with a whole shitload of blow, and there you go. Off to the races they went.
Is there a third drug song?
I don't think so.
No.
They
didn't keep doing it every album and run out eventually?
No, I don't think
Robitussin song?
No, there's
13?
No, and they thankfully never developed a fascination for heroin or anything like that. There's some LSD references on Fairies Wear Boots, but again, that's in the stoner hippie era, which is another hippie drug, the psychedelics.
They never got into Purple Drink or anything?
I don't think so. I think from 4 on until they kicked Ozzy out, it was just all coke all the time.
Okay. Good to know.
They were crazy.
Can you imagine? Well, maybe you could. I can't imagine that.
I can't imagine surviving it. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I mean, I don't know how any of those guys did. You read about what Perry and Tyler were doing in the Aerosmith book, and those guys were into heroin. I mean, they didn't really sing much about it, but anybody who saw Aerosmith performance in the 70s, chances are you were going to be somewhat disappointed because these guys were just smacked out of their minds, could barely stand up. You know, nowadays there'd be a fucking class action lawsuit by everybody who bought a ticket, but back in the day, it was actually, I don't know if it was necessarily part of the appeal, but there was definitely that sense of danger, like you never knew what you were going to witness on stage from one show to the next.
Yeah.
And you either were going to get something awesome or something catastrophic. Rarely anything in the middle.
Specifically Aerosmith?
Pretty much. They were known for some really horrible performances in the 70s, mainly because they were so smacked out they could barely stand up and perform.
Maybe I don't fully understand heroin and the behavior and effects it has on you, the way you behave on it. I was always under the impression that you couldn't function at all, basically, if you're on it. But so many performers have been on it over time. They've been able to write and release incredible stuff. I don't know if they're on it at the time or if that's on their downtime between.
Well, if you think about it, when they as they get into an addiction to heroin, you actually can't function unless you're on it. I mean, at the outset, you're probably incapacitated when you're initially doing it because body's not accustomed to it, but then you develop that tolerance to it, and you're continually chasing that first dose of it. And as people who self-medicate tend to do, they overdose, not necessarily fatally, but they take too much and try to go out and do their thing, and it doesn't always end up the way they would want it. So yeah, crazy stuff, man. I mean, all the not all of them, but the bands that were known for this sort of thing were fucking crazy back in the 70s.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I mean, yeah, Sabbath was just, the coke years were way out of control for them, but they put out incredible stuff. Eric Clapton is another one. People point to his best work being when he was on heroin for most of the late 60s and most of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Heroin is not something you would say, I would like him to still be on it so he could put out good music, but you can't argue with the results. How they did it, I have no idea, but they did it. That's just a great Iommi solo. And he never really went into any like super fast runs in that solo, which is weird in a song about cocaine. He's very restrained and kind of almost stoner style. There's no franticness to that playing, but it's totally spot on.
That's what you'd expect. You'd expect it to continue and get faster and crazier.
Yeah, and the tempo of this song in general is not that. I mean, although there's a section coming up where they ramp things up a little bit, but and they never really got that way tempo wise on any of the next few albums, but it's just kind of the lyrical content and just the sort of just the off the rails quality of Ozzy's vocals are what really indicated to you that these guys were face down in piles of cocaine on the regular. And if you watched their live performances from the era, I mean,
covered in sweat.
Yeah, Geezer Butler. You wonder how his heart didn't explode. I think the only public display of cocaine addiction that exceeds that is Bobcat Goldthwait in One Crazy Summer. Have you ever seen that movie?
Never seen it,
with
no.
John Cusack and Demi Moore, I think?
No.
Oh. You want to witness an individual who's had way too much cocaine and is being tasked with performing. You watch that, and every time I watch that, I say the same thing I said a minute ago. How did his heart not explode out of his chest during this?
Is that a confirmed thing? Have you ever...
I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
We live in a day where you can't observe anything and you can't make a common sense judgment about anything with people saying, where's your proof?
No,
where's the link?
I just didn't know if this was like a storied thing that he tells If he's, but you
I
can
don't
just
think
tell
so,
by
but-
seeing it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
he as Steven Tyler would say, he is gacked to the nines, to the point where it's so distracting when he's on screen. It's like you expect him to just topple over dead at any moment.
And that's considering that you know who he is and you've seen him in other movies.
Well, that, and I've also seen, I've been someone on cocaine, and I've seen plenty of people on cocaine.
So that too.
Like, so again, life experiences, common sense.
Sure, but my point is that he's jarring and distracting in any movie. Just his character by nature.
This is next level stuff. I mean,
so that's saying something.
If you happen to notice it coming on, I would encourage you to watch a portion of it. You'll
One
see
Crazy Summer?
I think so.
All
I think
right.
that's the title. It's
look.
One Something Summer, but John Cusack and Demi Moore are the other people in it. It's insane. Bobcat Goldthwait is
Yep. It's One Crazy
Yeah.
Summer, 1986.
ripped out of his skull on cocaine. Hilarious shit.
Let the winter sunshine on. Let me feel the frost of dawn. Build my dreams of flakes of snow. Soon I'll feel the chilling glow.
Now they take the tempo up a bit. It's not like ridiculously fast, but it's another one of those totally different bits of the song that they transition into, and it's just seems seamless when you listen to it.
Yeah,
It
it
flows
does.
from one end thing into the next, and that's one of the things that Rollins just praises them about in that classic albums episode. It's how they were able to do that, and they did it repeatedly. I mean, just that was their whole style. It's like they came up with so many riffs and so many great parts and blended them together in so many great songs. It's like amazing the deep well of musical ideas these guys had.
Yeah, and if you heard these parts out of sequence, like if someone just played them for you individually, you might not connect them. But once they're all together, they work.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it doesn't sound like the cut and paste. This doesn't necessarily go with that, but it's, I don't know, it's intentionally like surprising or jarring. It doesn't come across that way.
No.
But they're not very typical. Like, I don't know, with a lot of songs, if you've heard a million songs, you can kind of know what's coming next. In general, just with like a hit song, you kind of know what parts are going to happen in it. Not know, but you know what I mean? You're not like surprised by anything. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That rarely happens.
Yeah, and a lot of like the grunge / alternative music of the 90s, it was very predictable. It's like, okay, they're just about to get real quiet here after this.
Right.
Cacao, like Pumpkins were known for that, Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like more predictable. This, it almost became expected as they released more albums because that was their thing. But even though it was expected, it was never predictable. Like the first time you would hear any of these songs, you would expect there to be a arrangement change, but when it came, it was never something that you would expect, and it was never something that really sounded out of place. I mean, they were just masterful at that.
Don't you think I know what I'm doing? Don't tell me that it's doing me wrong. You're the one that's really the loser. This is where I feel I belong.
is lashing out at someone during that faster tempoed verse.
Yeah, and also, someone who's probably being like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do so much cocaine. It's like, yeah, well, you're the one who's really the loser,
Don't you think I know what I'm doing? Literally the first line.
And it's
you're the loser.
Right. And it's like just the classic attitude of the addict, It's like, I'm not hurting anybody except myself. Let me do this and all this. It's just really what an odd thing to express in song, just pledging your love for these drugs. And they did it on two separate drugs on consecutive albums.
Yeah.
And two polar opposite drugs, too. Very, very odd. What do you think of the drumming in this tune?
I like it. That last part was kind of intense. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, for the rest of the song, I like it a lot. It's tasteful, but it's busy but tasteful.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Was that a ghost note? Is that what that's called? The little... He's doing a lot of
he's
the
another
left hand.
Yeah, and he's another one of the swinging British drummers of the day, like the Mitch Mitchells, the John Bonhams, the Bill Wards, who were disciples of Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and all the jazz guys. Kind of like how I said about the whole genesis of the guitar solo being that pop guitar players wanted to show off their chops like the jazz guys. Same thing with the drummers. They were just able to do it throughout a song like that. And that's something else you don't really hear much of anymore. And if you did, the way albums are recorded, you couldn't make out any of that nuance anyway.
Yeah.
At least from heavy bands.
Right.
The heaviness is not from just the pounding things out relentlessly throughout something. It's more in the attitude and sort of the vibe of the lyrical content.
And when you listen to heavy music that's recorded now, I don't even know if there's anyone playing the drums in a lot of cases. It's like, metronome perfectly placed, perfectly recorded, exact copy bass drum, snare drum, huge sound. You know what I mean? There's no human feel to it.
No, I agree with you. Or probably, someone will point out the anomalies to that. I hope there are some out there, because it would be nice to get kind of back to this vibe in heavier music. I mean, I think I for one certainly bash a lot of the rock music of the day, but I think I will say the younger quote unquote rock bands are more of like the Lollapalooza style bands.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're more cognizant of getting good recordings, so I will give them credit for that. It's just what they're recording is not to my liking, but
right.
I think they're, the hipster thing. I think they're into the types of mics they use and getting the sounds and the room sounds.
The art of recording.
I think everything's kind of retro, and I think that yields better recordings. But heavy music, the super heavy stuff like your Lamb of God and whatnot, even like Mastodon, who's got something interesting going on, but I don't know, when you listen to recordings, you're not getting this, basically.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, maybe this is just something that will never return to heavier music as it's recorded in the studio. Who knows? Now, is that probably a mellotron, what they would use back in the day to simulate a string section? That was the main instrument used by, well, the likes of the Moody Blues and whatnot. But Zeppelin used the mellotron, and a lot of the psychedelic bands did. So that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah,
adds a nice bit of texture there. I like how they threw that in,
especially after the solo.
Yeah, and it's not busy. It's just one note sustained.
Yeah,
throughout. It's a pretty cool touch there.
Lies snowblind in the sun. Oh, my ice age have become.
There's your crazy whacked out solo.
Yeah, pretty awesome. They were killing it there. And a fade out song, something that is kind of you don't get that much anymore. I will say that the version they were doing on the last tour, that's they put out a live album for the End tour, and just the way they ended this song was just massive. I mean, I don't know if you can find it on YouTube, but might be worth just hearing how the way they ended this song on this last tour was just fucking incredible. I mean, this was one that you knew it was going to be in the set, but you kind of weren't sure how it was going to come out because of the most recent drummer. I'm going to mess up his name, but Tommy Clufuedos, I think his name is. There it is at the bottom there. Next one.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a guy that you watch him drum, and there's no economy of motion in his playing. He's just flailing his arms around. And so you wonder how he's going to get all the nuances of the drumming, and he didn't get all the way there, but the trade-off is there was a ton more power, and one of the biggest examples of that was how they ended this tune in concert. If you can't find it, no big deal. It might be on YouTube.
For some reason, that only had Paranoid.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I downloaded the whole album from iTunes back in the day, but they're doing that whole transition away from iTunes. But anyway, great stuff.
We could find it. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the other Volume 4 album or song that was on We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, well, Changes is on there, but also Tomorrow's Dream was on there. That's another good one. But other stuff, the deeper cuts on this album are definitely worth listening. Boy, somebody's listening to what we're talking about. We've got an ad for someone applying talcum powder to their balls.
What's going on with that? Is there any truth to that? You always hear like, oh, I think my phone's listening to my conversation. And
there's absolutely truth.
Is there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've experienced it.
Here we go. Good place to jump in.
Yeah, this is fine. But watch the drummer. I mean, he's just like no economy of motion. Just these wild, exaggerated physical moves. Great drummer, but totally different style. Yeah, it was fucking awesome when they brought it home like that in concert. I was getting the chills listening to that. It's amazing. And for guys pushing their 70s,
Right. Yeah.
Incredible. We should all aspire to be rocking that formidably as we approach 70.
That's true. I feel like I'm too old to be like that. I'm half of that.
No, those guys. That tour was pretty impressive in terms of just the sheer power that was coming off that stage.
You went to one of the shows?
Yeah, I actually bought tickets from our boy Dave Burke.
Oh,
I was
really?
looking to unload them, and I picked him up. His Rival Sons was the opening act, so that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But the Sabbath set was killer. It was great.
Well, Chris, it's time to vote. Sweet Surrender or Kick in the Crotch?
Sweet Surrender for me, for sure.
It's sweet surrender. Hell yes.
This is one that, I don't know if you would say overplayed, but again, it's been in the set pretty much since it came out. It's been on the greatest hits collections, all the live albums, Reunion, The End, all that stuff. So it's maybe a little overexposed, and some of the other deeper cuts on Volume 4 are a little more interesting. Wheels of Confusion, St. Vitus Dance, Supernaut, incredible stuff. But I mean, this song is amazing, and just the way they brought it home in concert on this last tour, especially, just solidified it as one of the top cuts in their whole catalog for me.
I'm going to agree with you and give it a Sweet Surrender.
It's sweet surrender. Hell yes.
Not huge on the 5.5-minute song. Pretty much in general. I guess there are exceptions to that rule. But to me, I smell hippie.
In this song?
Not just in general with Black Sabbath, where I like parts, but I feel like it's, for my tastes, maybe too much, too long, too stretched out. But
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
But yeah, obviously, it's a classic song. It's a powerful song. It's also a song that when you hear it, you feel like you could learn how to play it. It's not like out of the realm of possibility as someone, like if you just want to play a song on your guitar at home. And I think there's something to be said for songs like that. I'm not someone who's especially interested in wanting to try to learn some virtuoso thing. I think if you can come up with a song that people aspire to want to play on a guitar, especially like kids learning, but it sounds original and sounds cool, that says a lot, instead of what's the craziest thing I can do that's extremely difficult. I don't know. I think there's more respect from me if you can do something relatively simple that is signature to your sound and unique to you.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I definitely did that.
Yeah.
And I think the complexity came in with, again, the arranging and the
but just like the main
meshing
riff
together of multiple riffs and into one song where it sounded like it all made sense.
Yeah. Yep. And then also for the recording itself, I do like that sound of a band in a room.
Volume 4 has definitely got a unique sound to it. It's kind of a dry sound, There's not much detectable like reverb. They're not trying to, as a lot of bands, heavier bands want to do, capture the hugeness of it all.
Yeah.
It's sparse and dry. It's not as sludgy as kind of their first 3 albums were. It's a little, I don't know, a little clearer, I think, but definitely a dry production, so it's got its own charm to it.
I mean this as in the highest complimentary form possible for what I'm going to say. But the sound of this almost reminds me of what it's like to walk into a garage when a band is playing. But obviously they're a great band writing hit songs that are well rehearsed. But just the tone of it and the sound of it, it just sounds like a band in a room playing. They didn't throw a lot of, like you said, studio reverb, and they didn't clean every single track up.
Yeah.
Between every snare drum we have to cut out the...
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just... It's a band playing in a room.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're highly regarded by people who might not necessarily be into this kind of music. I mean, if you listen back, and I think obviously if they get the endorsement of one Henry Rollins, and a lot of punk rock guys are going to have a new appreciation for it. It's not like your knuckle dragging metal. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, anytime you can capture just that vibe of a band getting in a room and playing together, that's probably my favorite thing about Carnival of Souls, really. I would compare that to this album, being that kind of what you were just saying, it doesn't sound completely finished in terms of like being spit shined and mastered up, you know?
It doesn't sound like It's My Life from last week.
No, definitely not. It's like the polar opposite of that. But that's one of the things, the charm of Carnival Souls to me is like, you know, they didn't really succeed all the way with necessarily maybe what they're trying to do, but just to hear them putting out that kind of music, and you just got that vibe of four guys getting together in a room and banging out some tunes. It was the vibe I got from that album, and it's one of the things I like most about it. So same with this one.
There's something to be said for that.
There's a lot to be said for it. That's where it all comes from. It should come from anyway.
Right. Well, guess what? Two Sweet Surrenders wins you a trip to the next round.
All right, Hammond! I got a question for you.
Paul Stanley wants to know if Snowblind is a rock and roll boner classic, as voted by the two rock and roll boners in this room. Just let it play out. I'm enjoying the drumming.
I'm trying to think. Well, there was some cowbell and Sabbath's drumming on The Wizard, most notably.
Yeah.
That one cowbell hit right in the middle of everything.
Dink.
My vote's in. So.
Let me think about it for a second. That's the best part of this. I just want to listen to that over and over. Okay, my vote is in too. Do you want to vote first? You want me to vote first?
I'll go first. This is the two-man voting that's become the new catchphrase.
That's correct.
All right. Well, it's getting a roll from me.
And a boner from me.
And he got it! It's a rock and roll boner. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? I am. Get it right.
Are you kidding me?
Now, Pete Weber might have been a little snowblind during that outburst.
It sounds like
it's the kind of thing you would expect from someone who's got a head full of cocaine. Not a rational response to what's happening.
What is the last thing he says? Something, you're right, I am.
Yeah, who do you think you are? I am.
There you
Get
go.
it right.
Who do you
just,
think?
just barking out nonsense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just the emotion behind it. Doesn't
Yes.
matter what he's saying.
Fueled by some nose whiskey, probably.
Let's
been
go with
known. He's been known to partake in that.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's the word on the street. That
I doubt it,
old
0%.
PD. You don't doubt it, or you do doubt it?
I don't doubt it at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Pretty sure that's a known fact that PDW dabbled in the booger sugar, as they call it.
He just looks like he would.
Oh yeah, receding hairline and constantly wearing sunglasses indoors. I mean, it's just something not normal about that. And then don't give me this crap about, oh, I have this sensitivity to light. It's like, no, you're just a fucking weirdo wearing sunglasses indoors. Get out of here.
Weirdo. All right. Well, I don't know if anyone's going to disagree with us, but if you do, we're sorry.
That's just the fucking way it is.
The only thing I can think of that people might have an issue with would be, like I said before, the overexposure to this one. That it's just constantly played in the live set and on all the greatest hits and live albums. But there's a reason for that, you know?
I don't think that, unless it's like something that irks you about the song, like Shout It Out Loud for Me and Love Gun for You, where we know they're classics, but there's something that irks you.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I could set aside my whether or not I've heard it too many times.
Yeah.
Or whether or not I even really love it, if I just understand the significance of it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we got time for something fun, don't we? Guess what time it is? That's not the right time. Come on, Andy. You know what? I made a mistake.
You guys deserve way better than this jerk-off did tonight. I'm sorry.
And
Total waste of skin and life.
I deserve that. It's time for Yardo questions.
Sing away.
Yes, Chief.
How about that? More cowbell there.
Yeah, man. Getting a lot of cowbell. People love it.
It's a big cowbell day. All right, so this week's Yardo questions submitted on podofthunder.com. Please continue sending yards of questions. It's easy. There's a little button. You click it. Boop, boop, boop. There it is. This week's Yardo questions comes to us from Mike Markle. All right, Mike, let's see what you got. Oh, question 1. There's a statue of Phil Lynott in Dublin, Ireland.
Timely stuff, by the way. Go ahead.
What other dead musician do you think deserves a statue?
I mentioned it because Phil Lynott's mother passed away a couple days ago.
She was still around.
Yeah,
huh?
89 years old.
Okay.
Universal emotion to that passing. What a wonderful lady she was. And
Really?
What a wonderful person she gave the world. So
Was she somewhat of a public figure?
yeah, I mean, there's so many people talking about how they sought her out just to hang out at her house and listen to her talk about Phil, and she would welcome people.
Oh,
in.
really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, she was great. I mean, you watch the Behind the Music episode, it just rips your heart out that she went through that level of grief. So, yeah, I mean, just a legitimate, wonderful human being. And she was she was instrumental in having that statue of Phil erected there. So yeah, timely question. I don't know if it came in this week, but glad we're doing it.
Yeah.
Dead rock star who deserves a statue.
Mm-hmm. And let's say for this one, you can do it however you want. But I was going to say, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone where you think, oh my God, how did they not have a statue? But just a statue you'd like to see.
I'd like to see a statue of El Duque, the Mentors, propped up in close proximity to a train track because that's how he perished. He got hit by a train, I believe.
What if someone made a statue and then threw it in front of a train immediately?
That would
work. That work?
Yeah.
He would probably have appreciated that.
Yeah. Maybe have it close enough to a train track where it could conceivably be blown over in a windstorm into the path of an oncoming train.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see. El Duque memorialized in bronze.
That's good.
I would piss on it, give him a golden shower.
Oh, that's all that would happen.
Yeah, and he would love it. He would sign off on that kind of activity.
Maybe they should put it in a dog park.
Exactly.
Have him like on his hands and knees with his mouth open or something. I'm gonna go along the same lines and say Odorous Urungus from Guar deserves a statue.
How long ago did he pass away?
2014.
Okay.
Like March of 2014.
And what? Just natural causes?
Heroin overdose.
Really?
Almost 50 years old. Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that. Jeez.
Yep. And I don't think he was a regular heroin user. I'm sure he was a recreational drug user for the majority of his life. But I think that was one of those things where, for some reason, in probably age 48 or 49, he decided it's time to start trying heroin, and then had an overdose.
It's a terrible idea. It's kind of like how Kevin Dubrow went out. It's like he's 50-something. I think I'm going to do a little more cocaine tonight. It's like, yeah, no. It's what's one of my catchphrases that you love? It's a young man's game. If you're 50-something and you're considering doing a couple rails of cocaine, think again.
Yeah.
Reconsider what you're doing. And heroin, I don't know what you're expecting to have happen. I didn't realize that's how he went out.
Yeah.
No good. I mean, and speaking of Phil Lynott, I mean, he definitely just went down the tubes from drugs, which is the most tragic thing of all.
Yeah.
How a guy like that could be so self-destructive, but that's the way it was.
Yeah. Question 2: encores at concerts. Do they rock you like a hurricane, or do you think they are bogus?
Well, they're almost invariably bogus. I mean, it's like orchestrated that they're going off stage and they're going to be coming back on at some point. And also in today's world where, pull out your phone and go to setlist.com or whatever it is, and there's going to be they're coming back, and what songs they're going to do. So yeah, I think it's kind of bogus. I mean, I wonder who was the first to get like a legitimate encore where they finished their set and the crowd was going so crazy that the promoter is like, you better get back out there.
And then what do you see? That's the other thing. Maybe
it was the Diarrhea King, the Big Bopper, who did it. Go back out and do Chantilly Lace again.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like, what else is he gonna do?
Right. Depending on who you are and what kind of catalog you have, you might not have anything else to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or you go out and do some shitty song
that
you left out of the set on purpose. Yeah. So yeah, the genuine encore is kind of strange.
No, it's very contrived and predictable. It does not rock me like a hurricane.
What do you think of the other thing, the third option, where the band acknowledges, hey, this is the time where we're going to leave and come back, and then you cheer, and then we do an encore. Like, where it's not like even, let's pretend we don't know what's going on here. We're going to go take a bathroom break and come right back.
I get the need for taking a break, but there's other ways to do it. I don't understand the need for it anymore. Just play the set and be done with it.
I agree. And you know when it's over. If you know the band, you know when it's over.
Exactly.
You know what song they're going to end with.
Right.
So, I agree. I'm going to go with you on that one. I'm going to say they are bogus.
You're bogus, girl. Like R. Kelly would say.
All right, question 3. Who is the rock musician that annoys you the most? Mine is Todd Rundgren. He seldom plays his hits, makes everyone sit through the filler waiting for ... nothing.
Boy.
Musician that annoys you.
Trying to think of someone other than the usual suspects who I've named time and time again over the course of this podcast. Who annoys me? You got anybody? I mean, I definitely can understand why someone would be annoyed by Todd Rundgren. I mean, first of all, wear a shirt with sleeves, dude. I mean, have you ever seen this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, what makes you think that a sleeveless T-shirt is working for you?
Yeah, it's not for him.
No. Start there and then improve other things as you move along.
God, this is one of those questions where it's like I know I have 10 good
I'm gonna forget
answers,
one,
and I can't think of. I would say Red Hot Chili Peppers annoy me. That's not one musician. That's a whole band.
Yeah, the whole thing. Not a fan of that shtick, huh?
I don't know. I had my time, but I think after a certain point, and seeing them live, I told you that story when we talked about them. So they're still in that category where, as a whole, they annoy me, but I can appreciate some things that they did in their career. Coldplay.
Yeah, I don't get that shit at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm more indifferent to it. It doesn't really get a reaction out of me. It doesn't incite anger in me.
It incites anger in me. So.
Yeah, I'm trying not to lean back on the usual suspects, which top of my head would be Jeff Lynne and Arcade Fire. The two entities there are just fucking, I don't get it. There's no discernible talent out of any of it. And I know it surprises people with regard to Jeff Lynne, but the guy's a fucking coattail rider all his career as far as I'm concerned. Started with Roy Wood and then moved on to just about everybody else. How he was able to latch on to so many icons of music is astonishing.
Yeah.
Just don't get it.
I've got one, Dave Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know anything about him off stage.
But just his whole onstage shtick.
His onstage shtick, his physical appearance, the sound of his voice, the sound of his music annoys me. He might be an awesome dude.
Yeah.
Just not for me. U2 in general, I'm sure they had some great songs. I don't like any of them. I don't care about the whole grandiose thing. I just not a fan.
We were talking about all the douchebag attracting bands that play at Wrigley Field tonight.
Oh, yeah.
This Weekend is Dead and Company.
There you go.
I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about that too. We were talking about how many fucking posers are into that scene these days.
Yeah.
Would John Mayer qualify? He's in Dead Company. I don't know.
He doesn't bother me.
He's another one that just doesn't generate any kind of reaction out of me either way.
I've got no problem with John Mayer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's fine. He doesn't annoy me like he does some other people.
For no reason, I hate Grateful Dead. Fish, whatever other bands are like that.
Now, you talked about this earlier in the week. What do you hate more, them or the type of fan they attract in their whole scene?
100% the fan. Yeah.
I think that's true of most people who hate the Dead. It's not
just,
even so much the music, it's just that whole scene.
My entire life, I have, even before I even knew what it was, I just didn't like the look of hippie culture. I just always hated it. So, and then
that's noodling guitar work and all that.
And just the look of the audience, the people. I just hate it.
They're just unclean.
Yeah, just stupid.
But they should be clean because they're silver spoon posers.
That's
there's
the other part.
There's no actual poor people in the crowd of a Grateful Dead show.
No, that's the other part that I learned later, and then it made me hate it even more.
Yeah, just posers.
Yeah. When I worked
the
for
biggest poser scenes of all time.
When I worked for you and your wife, and you guys had sometimes musical acts come in.
Sure.
Who a lot of times I liked the people performing, but a lot of times the people in the audience. And I was working there, and I was just disgusted with these people, and it made me so angry having to be in the presence of those audience members.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Everything you just said, really. So.
Yeah, nothing's really coming to me other than the usual suspects. I'm sure I'm going to think of something. I'm trying to think of somebody more modern. I guess Arcade Fire fits that bill, but I don't know. I'm not coming up with anything. Dave Matthews is probably a good one. Although I'll say he's another one that just doesn't get a rise out of me one way or the other.
Ooh, how about Oasis?
I'm actually not a...
You're a fan?
I wouldn't say a fan, but I can appreciate them. They had some great pop songs, no question.
Can't stand them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that their songs weren't well written or whatever. Just the whiny vocal. Here, you know what it is with Oasis for me? It's the combination of what they sound like and the way they behave.
Yeah,
it doesn't go together at all.
Right.
Like they act like they're Johnny Rotten in 1977, and then they're playing these like acoustic, whiny pop songs.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't go together for me, so I'm dismissing them as a whole. A lot of my anger comes from me being a teenager. I'm noticing now, like Dave Matthews, Oasis. These are bands I hated when I was in high school. Hippie stuff.
Yeah.
High school also. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tap out and just go to my usual suspects.
All right. Well, thank you to Mike Markle for making us think there. Appreciate that. Great Yardo question, so thank you, sir. And if you want to submit your Yardo questions, go to potofthunder.com. That's where you can do it all. Yardo questions, submit a song, buy some stuff if you want. We still got these enamel pins autographed by Nick. The postcard. Ooh, what a selling point. How have you not bought one yet? $10 postage paid in the United States? Get out of here. Bargain at any price. Quality merch. And then also if you want to submit an opening for the show, yell Pot of Thunder into your mobile device and email it to potofthunder@yahoo.com. That's Pot of Thunder at yahoo.com. Chris, I think that's going to do it. I got to get on Amazon and research my next ball hair trimmer.
There you go. Well, I told you where to get your next ball hair trimmer. You know what to do.
I'm looking for a gas-powered one. I'm tired of these battery-operated instruments.
Just get like a one of those culinary blow torches they use for what's the dish?
Creme brulee.
Yeah, there you go. Just turn your nutsack into a creme brulee. A nice golden browed.
Nice.
Hair is singed off.
You know who has one of those torches? That would be Nick.
Oh.
Nick's a big creme brulee guy. DIY creme brulee master.
Oh, we know he hasn't applied that to his balls.
No,
so.
You should try it.
Let us know how it goes with the attempted return
Yes.
of this implement. I'm interested to hear this next week.
Yeah, no packaging. Used on several areas of the body. Probably some kind of
residual pubes in there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Should I clean that out?
Oh, no, absolutely
Just send it as is?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, it's going to end up in Africa with the Boston Bruins 2019 Stanley Cup champions gear.
All right, I'm doing it.
The Golden State Warriors NBA champs 2019.
Yeah.
Look for a newsreel footage of some African guy trimming his balls with Andy's old Norelco.
All right. That's good. All right, well, on that note...
Africa, where substandard ball trimmers go to die.
There's this some guy with a loincloth and a ball hair trimmer stuck in his pubic hair. Ran out of battery. Couldn't get through. Not enough power.
Unacceptable.
All right. We'll be back next week.